Hello. So we finished our read aloud for Dragon Masters yesterday. So I had told you that next week we'll be starting a new chapter series. So today I have been wanting to share with you one of my very, very favorite stories, Roxaboxen. And this is illustrated by Barbara Cooney, and the author is Alice McLaren. This book was actually written 29 years ago, if you can believe that. This book, though, the way that I was introduced to this book the first time is that I heard the story and I didn't get to see any of the pictures. And then I got to read the story myself and I got to see all the fabulous illustrations. And so what was remarkable, I thought, about this story is how these children use their imagination to create fun times when they really didn't have a whole lot around them. And it kind of reminds me of how our lives within this whole experience of school closing has really changed. And many of you have started doing some really fun things that maybe you hadn't done before, and you're still finding lots of enjoyment each day. So here it is, Roxaboxen. Mary Ann called it Roxaboxen. She always knew the name of everything. There, across the road, it looked like any rocky hill. Nothing but sand and rocks, some old wooden boxes, cactus and greasewood, and thorny ocotillo, but it was a special place. The street between Roxaboxen and the houses curved like a river, so Miriam named it the River Road. After that, you had to ford a river to reach Roxaboxen. Of course, all of Miriam's sisters came. Anna May and Frances and little Jean, Charles from next door, even though he was 12. Oh, and Eleanor, naturally, and Jamie with his brother Paul. Later on there were others, but these were the first. Well, not really the first. Roxaboxen had always been there and must have belonged to others long before. Roxaboxen, such a unique name. When Mary Ann dug up a tin box filled with round black pebbles, everyone knew what it was. It was a buried treasure. Those pebbles were the money of Roxaboxen. You could still find others like them if you looked hard enough. So some days became treasure hunting days, with everybody trying to find that special kind. And then on other days, you might just find one without even looking. See all the treasures they're finding there? Oh, I love this picture. A town of Roxaboxen began to grow, traced in lines of stone. Main Street first, edged with the whitest ones, and then the houses. Charles made his of the biggest stones. After all, he was the oldest. At first, the houses were very plain, but soon they all began to add more rooms. The old wooden boxes could be shelves or tables or anything you wanted. You could find pieces of pottery for dishes. Round pieces were best. You can tell there's all these big stones here. So that must be Charles. He must be the oldest. We'll see. Later on, there was a town hall. Mary Ann was mayor, of course. That was just the way she was. Nobody minded. Look at the sign says mayor. Says welcome, Frances. After a while, they added other streets. Frances moved to one of them and built herself a new house outlined in desert glass, bits of amber, amethyst, and sea green. A house of jewels. It's a bakery. And because everybody had plenty of money, there were plenty of shops. Jean helped Anna May in the bakery. Pies and cakes and bread baked warm in the sun. There were 2 ice cream parlors. Was Paul's ice cream the best or Eleanor's? Everybody kept trying them both. In Roxaboxen, you can eat all the ice cream you want. Take a closer look. Bread, ice cream. It says the finest there. Everybody had a car. Take a closer look at that picture. What's going on in the car? Everybody had a car. All you needed was something round for a steering wheel. Of course, if you broke the speed limit, you had to go to jail. The jail had cactus on the floor to make it uncomfortable, and Jamie was the policeman. Anna May, quiet little Anna May, was always speeding. You'd think she liked going to jail. There's Anna May in jail. But if you had a horse, you could go as fast as the wind. There were no speed limit for horses, and you didn't have to stay on the roads. All you needed for a horse was a stick and some kind of bridle, and you could gallop anywhere. Sometimes there were wars. Once there was a great war, boys against girls. Charles and Mary Ann were the generals. The girls had Fort Irene, and they were all Girl Scouts. The boys made a fort at the other end of Roxaboxen, and they were all bandits. Oh, the raids were fierce, loud with whooping and stamping of horses. The whirling swords of Ocotillo had sharp thorns, but when you reached your fort, you were safe. Roxaboxen had a cemetery in case anyone died, but the only grave in it was for a dead lizard. Each year when the cactus bloomed, they decorated the grave with flowers. There it is. Sometimes in the winter, when everybody was at school and the weather was bad, no one went to Roxaboxen at all. Not for weeks and weeks. But it didn't matter. Roxaboxen was always waiting. Roxaboxen was always there. And spring came and the Ocotillo blossomed, and everybody sucked the honey from its flowers. And everybody built new rooms, and everybody decided to have jeweled windows. That summer there were 3 new houses on the east slope and 2 new shops on Main Street. And so it went. The seasons changed and the years went by. Roxaboxen was always there. The years went by and the seasons changed until at last the friends had all grown tall. And one by one, they moved away to other houses, to other towns. So you might think that was the end of Roxaboxen. But oh no, because none of them ever forgot Roxaboxen. Not one of them ever forgot. Years later, Mary Ann's children listened to stories of that place and fell asleep dreaming dreams of Roxaboxen. Gray-haired Charles picked up a black pebble on the beach and stood holding it, remembering Roxaboxen. More than 50 years later, Frances went back and Roxaboxen was still there. She could see the white stones bordering Main Street, and there where she had built her house, the desert glass still glowed amethyst, amber, and sea green. The last page is a story about the events that happened in this book. So I'll read it. It says, on a hill in the southeast corner of 2nd Avenue and 8th Street in Yuma, Arizona, there's a place once known as Roxaboxen. The events in this book really happened to Alice McLaren's mother. With the aid of her mother's childhood manuscript, the memories of relatives and letters and maps of all the former inhabitants of Roxaboxen, Alice McLaren was able to recreate that magical moment of a world where she had played there herself. She presents us with a celebration of the active imagination, the ability of children to create, even with the most unpromising materials. A world of fantasy so real and multi-dimensional that it earns a lasting place in memory. So, whenever I read Roxaboxen, I always think of the amazing imaginations that my students have, including you guys. You have written some of the most amazing stories this year, and I've enjoyed reading them. So think about this when you are writing your story and how you can put in some creative details. And think about it maybe when you're outside playing. When you look at those rocks, maybe they're not rocks. When you look at the sticks, maybe it could be a horse. Have a great weekend, friends.